The grand hall of the Celestian Palace gleamed with an otherworldly luminescence, its crystalline walls refracting light into 1,000 dancing colors. Princess Alexa swept through the corridor with the grace of someone who had never been told no in her entire life. Her silver gown trailed behind her like liquid starlight, and the ornate crown atop her violet hair caught the ambient glow of the chamber. Today was supposed to be a routine diplomatic reception, another tedious afternoon of pretending to care about the lesser species that populated the galaxy. The humans, in particular, bored her to tears with their short lifespans and primitive technology. "Mother, must we really entertain these creatures?" Alexa complained, her voice carrying the melodic yet sharp quality typical of her people. "They smell of dirt and desperation." Queen Seraphina, resplendent in robes that seemed woven from nebulae themselves, gave her daughter a measured look. "Alexa, diplomacy requires patience. The humans have requested an audience, and we shall grant it." The princess rolled her luminous eyes but said nothing more. She took her place beside the throne, arranging herself with practiced elegance, fully expecting to be monumentally underwhelmed. The massive doors opened with a resonant hum, and the human delegation entered. At the front walked an old man who immediately drew Alexa's disdain. His uniform was faded and worn, covered in patches and stains that no amount of cleaning could remove. His face was weathered like ancient leather, marked with scars that told stories Alexa had no interest in hearing. He walked with a slight limp, leaning on a simple wooden cane. This was Colonel Jackson Hart of the Earth Defense Forces. Alexa barely suppressed a laugh. "This is their representative?" She whispered to her attendant, loud enough that several people could hear. "He looks like he should be in a museum, not a palace." Jackson's eyes steel gray, and remarkably sharp for someone his age, flicked toward her briefly, but registered no emotion. He simply continued his slow, deliberate walk toward the throne. "Your Majesty," Jackson said, his voice rough but steady as he attempted a bow that his aging body made difficult. "I come bearing a message from Earth." Before he could continue, Alexa interjected with a laugh that sounded like wind chimes in a storm. "A message? What could Earth possibly have to say that we would find interesting? Are you here to beg for more technology? More resources?" She leaned forward, her expression cruel. "Or perhaps you're here to ask us to save your dying planet once again." "Alexa," Queen Seraphina's voice cracked like thunder, but the princess was too caught up in her own amusement. "Look at him, Mother. He can barely stand. His uniform is practically falling apart. Is this really the best humanity has to offer?" She turned to Jackson directly, her violet eyes glittering with mockery. "Tell me, old soldier, what grand battles have you fought? What great deeds have earned you the right to stand before the Celestian throne? Or did they simply send the first pensioner they found shuffling through the streets?" The hall had gone silent. Even the other human delegates looked uncomfortable, their faces flushed with shame and anger on Jackson's behalf. But Jackson simply stood there, his expression unchanged, waiting. Queen Seraphina rose from her throne, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. Her eyes, usually kind and wise, now blazed with an intensity that made even Alexa pause. "You stupid, foolish child," the queen said, her voice low and dangerous. "Do you have any idea who stands before you?" Alexa blinked, confused. "He's just an old human soldier, Mother." "What?" Silence. The word reverberated through the hall. Queen Seraphina descended the steps of her throne with swift, purposeful strides. When she reached Jackson, she did something that made every Celestian in the room gasp in shock. She bowed, not a slight nod of acknowledgement, but a deep, respectful bow that one only gave to equals or superiors. "Colonel Hart," the queen said softly, "please forgive my daughter's ignorance. She knows nothing of history, nothing of sacrifice, nothing of the debt we owe you." Alexa stood frozen, her mind reeling. "Mother, what are you doing?" Queen Seraphina straightened and turned to address the entire hall, her voice ringing with authority. 30 years ago, when I was merely a princess myself, our world faced annihilation. The Vexither invasion had breached our defenses. Our armies were scattered. Our people were hours from extinction. She gestured to Jackson, this old soldier as you saw, mockingly called him commanded. The human fleet that came to our aid when no one else would. She turned back to Jackson, her eyes glistening. He held the line at the Nebula of Sorrows for 3 days with only 12 ships, against a force of thousands. He lost his leg, his right eye, and 90% of his crew. But he did not retreat. He gave us time to evacuate our core worlds and regroup. The Queen's voice grew thick with emotion. He saved 17 billion Celestian lives, including mine. And when the war was won, he asked for nothing in return. No titles, no riches, no honors. He simply went back to Earth and continued serving his people in whatever way he could. Alexa felt her face burn with shame as she looked at Jackson with new eyes. The scars weren't marks of age, they were badges of honor. The worn uniform wasn't a sign of poverty, it was evidence of countless battles fought. The limp wasn't weakness, it was the price of heroism. Jackson finally spoke, his voice gentle. Your Majesty, I came only to deliver a message. Earth requests assistance with the refugee crisis on our outer colonies. We have no payment to offer, only our gratitude and friendship. Queen Seraphina placed her hand on his shoulder. Consider it done, old friend. Celestia will always answer when Earth calls. She turned to her daughter, her expression stern. Alexa, you will personally oversee the relief effort. Perhaps it will teach you the humility you so desperately lack. The princess, for once in her life, had nothing to say. She could only nod, her eyes fixed on the man she had mocked, the hero who had saved her entire civilization, without ever seeking glory. As Jackson turned to leave, Alexa found her voice. Colonel Hart. He paused and looked back. I apologize, truly. For the first time, a small smile crossed his weathered face. We all have lessons to learn, Princess. I'm glad you learned yours today. As he limped out of the hall, Alexa understood that greatness wasn't measured in crowns or perfect appearances, but in the quiet courage of those who sacrifice everything for others.